From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday sounded the alarm over Metro Manila's worsening garbage problem, calling the situation critical as massive waste volumes clogged waterways, worsened flooding, and disrupted drainage operations. Inspecting the Jokno pumping station in Pasay City, the president pointed to piles of trash choking the facility. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon, however, did not mince words, describing the situation as a full-blown crisis. He warned that clogged waterways across the capital are intensifying floods amid days of heavy rains from the southwest monsoon. President Marcos stressed that garbage buildup directly undermines flood control efforts, with trash quickly blocking pumping stations once water flows in. The government is racing to clear incoming garbage before it reaches pumping facilities, part of its Oplan Contra Baha program that includes dredging canals and esteros. But the chief executive cautioned that newly cleared waterways will keep clogging unless waste disposal practices improve.
We look at the places around the country kung saan clean and green, where they are awardees of clean and green. Ang una kanilang ginawa is that naglagay sila ng basurahan. Ang problema ko minsan, walang basurahan. Walang pupuntahan, walang itatapos, walang paglalagyan ng basura. I look at a place like a country like Japan. A country like Japan, they just don't throw their basura anywhere. They keep it in their pockets and throw it at home because there's a very good system for bringing the garbage out. That is the first problem. So it's not useful to fine people for not throwing their garbage if there is no place to put their garbage. So of course, people are aware that there are fines. Nobody wants to be fined. Wala namang gusto na mamumultahan. Pero kailangan bigyan din natin ng facilities na kung saan pwede itapon yung basura. Ganun lang kasimple kung minsan yan eh. Minsan ganyan lang kasimple yung problema eh. Yeah, it certainly is. But just look at it. Does that look critical to you? It does to me. So yes, I wouldn't call it a garbage crisis, but that is the problem that we are facing.
As a long-term fix, the president reiterated his push for a waste-to-energy program. He said technical groundwork is complete, with the government now finalizing systems involving local government units or LGUs, plant sites, and electricity auctions. Results could be seen within 12 to 18 months. President Marcos vowed to continue multi-pronged flood control measures nationwide, stressing that solutions must be tailored to local conditions.
Andito si Sec Sharon ng Department of Energy dahil pinag-uusapan namin ng mabuti yung waste to energy ng mga plano. Mukhang patuloy naman ang ating mga ginagawa, ang ating programa, at we are starting to move forward at mag-auction na raw doon sa kung saan kasi bibilhin ng Department of Energy yung power na manggagaling doon sa waste to energy. Kaya yun ang ninenegotiate nila ngayon. So yan ang tanging solusyon dahil yung mga landfill puno na at pamahal na ng pamahal ang pagpapadala Kaya ang amin na lang iniisip is the location para yung mga LGU, kasi ang sistema dyan, ang LGU ang bahala sa pagkolekta at saka pagdala sa ngayon sa landfill. Ang ating iniisip, imbis na landfill dadalhin sa waste to energy plant. So tinitignan natin kung ano yung mga location para naman hindi masyadong malaki ang kailangan bayaran ng LGU para sa hauling na dadalhin yung basura kung saan man yung magiging waste to energy plant. So ito yung mga patuloy natin mga iba't ibang estratehiya para mabawasan ang flood control. Maayos na naghahandahan na natin na dredge yung mga waterways, yung mga kanal natin, yung mga estero, dahan-dahan na nabubuksan na natin. Pero nabubuksan natin dahil nabuksan, ito naman ngayon ang basura. Pumapasok nga dito sa ating mga pumping station at nababara lahat. Kaya we have to go through the entire process kung saan kayang makuha yung basura na bago pumasok dito sa city at bago mapunta, mabara yung ating mga pumping stations.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday called for sustained cleanup operations and stricter waste disposal after inspecting the garbage-choked Baclaran River in Parañaque City. President Marcos directed the immediate removal of tons of trash that clogged the river amid heavy rains from the southwest monsoon. The president urged the public to stop dumping garbage into waterways, warning that clogged drainage systems worsen flooding. President Marcos also pressed local government units or LGUs to strengthen waste management systems.
This time na nangyari rito, 3 days ago, napuno itong Parañaque. Dito sa Parañaque nangyari ito eh. Dati hindi nangyayari yan eh. Pero dahil una-una, madaming basura, nasira pa yung trash trap, tapos ang dami talagang bumagsak na tubig. Yung bumagsak na tubig in the last week is the equivalent of 1 month's rainfall, almost 1 meter. Almost 1 meter. Kaya tayo nakakaganto, nakaproblema tayo ng ganito.
Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA General Manager Nicholas Torre III reported that clearing crews have already hauled 45 truckloads, about 500 tons of garbage from the river. Heavy equipment, including a trash skimmer, has been deployed to speed up operations. Torre underscored the urgency of removing plastic waste, which he said could last for generations. He stressed that accumulated trash reduces the capacity of Metro Manila's flood control system.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA is calling for an investigation into fabricated flood photos and videos circulating online, including artificial intelligence or AI-generated images falsely showing garbage-strewn streets. In an interview Wednesday, MMDA General Manager Undersecretary Nicholas Torre III said the agency is coordinating with the Philippine National Police or PNP, Department of Information and Communications Technology or DICT, and the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center. He stressed that local government reports confirm genuine improvements in flood control, citing Caloocan, Malabon, Navotas, and Valenzuela or Kamanava and other flood-prone areas where water depth, coverage, and recession speed have improved. Torre noted garbage remains a major factor in flooding, shrinking water channels and damaging pumping stations. The MMDA collects about 1,000 tons of trash monthly from waterways and pumping stations, roughly 12,000 tons annually. The volume was evident in Baclaran last Sunday, where heavy rains washed tons of garbage into the river. The MMDA deployed a mechanized trash collector to accelerate debris removal. The MMDA also backs stronger penalties for improper waste disposal. Under Regulation Number 25-002, fines were raised to 5,000 pesos in Metro Manila cities and 2,500 pesos in Pateros. The measure, approved in September 2025, urges local government units to align their ordinances with the updated penalty scale to deter littering and address its impact on flooding and disease.
Dateline Malacañang.
Education Secretary Sunny Angara has directed teachers to intensify lessons on proper solid waste management, stressing its role in preventing floods and protecting communities. Speaking during his visit to Santolan Elementary School in Pasig City, one of the evacuation sites during recent monsoon rains, Angara underscored the importance of instilling discipline in waste disposal among students. Angara explained that this is about strengthening Republic Act or RA number 9003, the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, which promotes systematic and comprehensive garbage disposal. He said embedding these practices in the mindset of young learners is crucial, especially as the country continues to witness the damaging effects of neglect in waste management. Angara emphasized that responsible disposal is not just a classroom lesson, but a civic duty that directly impacts flood prevention. By teaching children early, he said, schools can help build a culture of discipline that extends to households and communities.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered the expansion of social protection coverage to include contract of service or COS and job order or JO workers in government, ensuring they gain equitable access to programs traditionally reserved for regular employees. Under Administrative Order or AO number 43, signed June 3rd, government agencies are directed to facilitate the voluntary deduction and remittance of Social Security System or SSS, PhilHealth and Pag-ibig Fund contributions from the compensation of COS and JO workers subject to their consent. The order states that all covered government agencies are hereby directed to facilitate the voluntary deduction of prescribed SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig Fund contributions, subject to the prior consent of the worker, emphasizing that agencies must establish mechanisms to enable participation and provide workers with information on available coverage. The directive applies to all national government departments, bureaus, offices, government-owned and controlled corporations or GOCCs, and state universities and colleges, while local government units or LGUs are encouraged to adopt the same provisions. Agencies are tasked to remit contributions directly to the institutions and ensure timely compliance. AO 43 clarifies that the arrangement does not alter the contractual relationship between agencies and COS or JO workers. The Department of Budget and Management, Civil Service Commission, Commission on Audit, SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig Fund are mandated to issue joint guidelines for implementation. A related joint circular issued in 2025 allows COS and JO workers to receive a premium of up to 20% of their compensation to cover voluntary contributions to Social Security programs.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has issued two proclamations declaring special non-working days in the provinces of Pampanga and Masbate to allow residents to fully participate in local celebrations. Proclamation number 1386 designates August 27th as a special non-working day in the municipality of Minalin in Pampanga, marking its 412th founding anniversary. Proclamation number 1387 declares August 14th as special non-working day in the municipality of Pio V. Corpus in Masbate in observance of the Limbuhan Festival. Both proclamations were signed on August 6 by Acting Executive Secretary Ralph Recto by the authority of the President.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Department of National Defense, or DND, on Wednesday hailed the Senate's unanimous concurrence in ratifying the Status of Visiting Forces Agreements, or SOFA, with Canada and New Zealand, describing the move as a major boost to defense cooperation. On Tuesday, Senate resolutions numbers 548 and 549 each garnered 19 affirmative votes with no objections or abstentions. The DND emphasized that the agreements will enhance interoperability, joint training, and practical cooperation between the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, and their Canadian and New Zealand counterparts. It also noted that both nations have been reliable partners in upholding the rules-based international order, contributing to regional security and humanitarian resilience. The Canada SOFA, signed in Makati City on November 2, 2025, sets terms for visiting forces including entry, departure, use of facilities, and criminal jurisdiction. The New Zealand Pact, signed in Manila on April 30, 2025, similarly governs cooperative defense and humanitarian activities, covering joint training, infrastructure development, equipment sharing, and disaster response.
Dateline Malacañang.
Cabinet Secretary Benjamin Ben-Hur Abalis Jr. on Wednesday formally administered the oath of office to lawyer Brett Monsanto as the new Undersecretary of the Office of the Cabinet Secretary, or OCS. In a statement posted on social media, Abalos expressed confidence that Monsanto's legal background and years of public service will strengthen the OCS's role in coordinating and implementing government priorities. Monsanto previously served as commissioner for the Visayas at the Presidential Commission for the Urban Poor and as chief of staff to former Cebu Governor Gwendolyn Garcia. The OCS, redefined under President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., is tasked with enhancing government services and ensuring effective delivery of programs for the Filipino people.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other developments, the Office of Civil Defense or OCD on Wednesday reported that about 3.14 million individuals or 909,133 families have been affected by tropical depressions Luis and Maymay and the southwest monsoon or Habagat in recent days. OCD Public Information Officer Diego Mariano said the affected population spans Ilocos Norte, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Bicol Region, Western Visayas, Zamboanga Peninsula, Cordillera, the National Capital Region or NCR, and Mimaropa. Around 22,893 families or 80,442 individuals are currently housed in 881 evacuation centers, while government assistance to impacted communities has reached 342.1 million pesos. Mariano added that the OCD is verifying reports of 21 fatalities, 15 in Benguet, 3 in Rizal, and 3 in Batangas. Damage assessments show 904 houses partially damaged and 68 destroyed. Infrastructure losses are estimated at 2.11 billion pesos, while agricultural damage stands at 196.85 million pesos.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Agriculture's Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Operations Center, or DADRRMOC, has reported that recent storms Luis and Maymay, along with the southwest monsoon, have left over 347 million pesos in damage to the country's agriculture sector. Losses were recorded across 6 regions: Ilocos, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and Western Visayas, where heavy rains and flooding devastated farmlands. According to DA data, around 12,161 farmers were affected, with nearly 9,500 metric tons of crops damaged across more than 10,000 hectares of farmland. The destruction covered rice, corn, cassava, high-value crops, livestock, poultry, and agricultural infrastructure. Officials stressed that the figures are still under assessment and validation, with field teams continuing to evaluate the full extent of losses. The department emphasized that the impact highlights the vulnerability of farmers and rural communities to extreme weather events, underscoring the need for stronger disaster preparedness and climate-resilient farming practices.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meantime, the Department of Education, or DepEd, has confirmed that more than 3.8 million learners have been affected by the onslaught of Tropical Storm Maymay and the southwest monsoon, according to its latest situation report. DepEd said class suspensions covered 5,164 public schools across 6 regions: Region 3, Region 1, Region 4A, the National Capital Region, Region 4B, and the Cordillera Administrative Region or CAR. The bad weather also impacted over 163,000 DepEd personnel. Meanwhile, 217 public schools are currently serving as evacuation centers, sheltering more than 6,400 families displaced by floods and heavy rains. Damage to school infrastructure has been extensive. Over 3,900 schools sustained minor damage, more than 1,300 suffered major damage, and another 1,300 were totally destroyed. In response, DepEd has allocated 32.6 million pesos for cleanup and clearing operations in affected schools and an additional 192.8 million pesos for minor classroom repairs.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Government Service Insurance System, or GSIS, announced Wednesday it is ready to extend its emergency loan program to more areas affected by Typhoon Maymay and the southwest monsoon, as local government units, or LGUs, declare states of calamity. In an interview, GSIS Executive Vice President Joseph Philip Andres said the pension fund is continuously updating coverage, with Cavite among the first provinces where qualified government workers and pensioners may begin availing assistance starting Thursday. He added that GSIS is monitoring other areas, including Pampanga and several LGUs, which may soon follow with their own declarations. Under the program, active members must either work or reside in a declared calamity area, while pensioners must reside in one. Members with existing emergency loans may still borrow up to 40,000 pesos with their current loan closed and proceeds of at least 20,000 pesos released. Those without existing loans may borrow 20,000 pesos payable in 36 monthly installments at a 6% interest rate. Beyond emergency loans, GSIS continues to offer its Balik Ginhawa 2 program, which allows qualified borrowers to recover loan amortizations paid from December 2025 to May 2026 with repayment periods extended and no additional interest charged. Applications may be filed through the GSIS Touch mobile app with approved proceeds credited to Land Bank or Union Bank accounts within 1 to 3 banking days. Members unable to access the app due to disrupted services may visit GSIS offices directly. Andres urged government workers and pensioners in calamity-hit areas to monitor GSIS channels for updates as more LGUs issue calamity declarations.
Dateline Malacañang.
Top economic officials led by Economy, Planning and Development Secretary Arsenio Balasacan and Finance Secretary Frederick Go convened the Economic Development Committee, or EDCOM, and its Subcommittee on Inflation Monitoring and Market Outlook, or SCIMMO, to tackle rising consumer prices and market stability. According to the Department of Economy, Planning and Development, or DepDev, the meeting focused on keeping the economy resilient while ensuring support for consumers and businesses amid volatile prices of goods and services. Officials reviewed government strategies to curb inflation, including maintaining trade interventions, strengthening product supply, and ensuring timely distribution of fuel subsidies to farmers, fisherfolk, and transport workers. The committee also emphasized the swift implementation of the El Niño Action Plan and the continuation of free ride programs to ease the burden on commuters. Beyond immediate inflation control, the meeting also addressed long-term efforts under the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council or LEDAC's Common Legislative Agenda. Among the priority measures discussed were proposed amendments to the Oil Deregulation Law, the Biofuels Act, and the Magna Carta for Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises or MSMEs. The discussions underscored the government's dual approach, immediate relief for vulnerable sectors, and structural reforms to strengthen economic resilience. By combining targeted subsidies, infrastructure support, and legislative action, officials aim to stabilize prices while laying the groundwork for sustainable growth.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine government's net satisfaction rating has rebounded to +1 or neutral in June 2026, up from -13 or poor in March, according to the latest Social Weather Stations or SWS survey. Conducted from June 20th to the 29th, a month before President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s State of the Nation Address or SONA, the survey found 42% of adult Filipinos satisfied, 17% undecided, and 40% dissatisfied with the administration's overall performance. The 14-point recovery marks a significant turnaround from March's record low rating, the lowest for the Marcos Jr. administration and the weakest in 16 years. On governance issues, the administration scored very good in public school education with +68, improving youth education +58, helping the poor +52, and job creation +51. Ratings were good in science and technology +49, housing for the poor +48, food security +41, defending territory in the West Philippine Sea +35, and public transportation +33. Moderate scores were noted in fighting hunger +26, climate change preparedness +24, and care for overseas Filipino workers or OFWs in the Middle East with +15. Neutral ratings were recorded in oil pricing, net 0, monitoring oil company abuses, -6, and crime prevention, -8. Poor marks persisted in controlling inflation with -12 and fighting graft and corruption with -14. Regionally, satisfaction improved across the board. Balanced Luzon rose to +13 from net 0. Visayas climbed to +5 from -23, Metro Manila improved to -11 from -23, and Mindanao to -17 from -27. Gains were also seen in both rural +10 from -8 and urban -7 from -18 areas, as well as across all age and education groups. The second quarter survey was conducted through face-to-face interviews with 1,200 adults nationwide. SWS clarified that the initiative was independent and not funded by any political group.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, 7 overseas Filipino workers or OFWs who were crew members of the Liberian-flagged bulk carrier MV Emil arrived safely in Manila on August 12, following a drone strike that hit their vessel while docked at the port of Odessa in Ukraine. The seafarers flew in aboard Cathay Pacific Airways flight CX-913, landing at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA Terminal 3. They were welcomed by Officer-in-Charge Assistant Secretary for Sea-Based OFW Concerns, Augusto San Diego III, together with representatives from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA and the Manila International Airport Authority or MIA medical team. The Department of Migrant Workers or DMW and OWA provided airport and financial assistance, while the MIA medical team conducted initial medical checks. Representatives from Intercrew Philippines Agency Incorporated were also present to extend support. The DMW and OWA directed the manning agency to ensure the seafarers undergo physical and psychological evaluations, debriefing sessions, and receive all applicable benefits and compensation tied to their repatriation. In line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive, the DMW reminded licensed manning agencies and their accredited principals to strictly observe safety precautions and established protocols for vessels carrying Filipino seafarers navigating the Black Sea.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and mabuhay.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.